Hi, welcome to Geekatplay Studio. I'm Amy Chopin and I'm going to be showing you all the great new things that we have in view. This is the second tutorial in this series, and in this tutorial we're going to talk about the terrains. You probably already noticed you now have two terrain buttons. This top terrain button is going to deal with your standard terrain, and before with the one terrain button we'd click and hold down that terrain button and get three options. We could either do terrain to editor, or a normal terrain, or a procedural terrain. Now we have two options with our normal terrain, and if we right click or hold click, we get a terrain to editor, new terrain options, just like before. So we won't do that. Or if we left click on it, we get a terrain, just a normal terrain there. So I'll go ahead and cut that because we're not going to deal with that. And now I'm going to point you to the procedural terrain button. That's the one with the little F. It's like a fractal terrain. And if we left click on it, we get the procedural terrain that you are used to, except now you're going to see that the graph here, the wireframe, looks a little bit different. It's smaller here and it gets a little bigger and a little bigger. And this is just a graphical representation of something that's been true with view, with procedural terrains the whole time, and that's that the closer to the camera that you get, the more detail is calculated in the terrain, which is one reason why procedural terrains are such an advantage, because you can get really, really close up to them, see a lot of detail, but the computer won't calculate that much detail across the whole terrain and thus increase your render time a lot. But if you want something a little bit more than this, let me show you what I mean by more. If we move this main camera up a little bit and do a quick render, you'll see that we can see the ground plane here. What we've been doing in the past is either increasing them and building our own huge terrains, or we've been making a lot of different terrains and putting them together and trying to not have a seam. Well, View has a solution to that. We'll cut this terrain out now. And if we right click on this, we get our pre-selects here, our presets. And so we have our regular procedural terrains like we put there, and we have something called infinite terrains. So I'll go ahead and select that. And then up comes this dialog that asks if you want to delete the ground plane. This is because the infinite procedural terrain is going to cover up the ground plane all the way. You no longer need it. However, we've lost our camera here. So I'm going to move that camera up. It's below this, so we can get a look at that. And we'll go a little bit lower. And now let's do a render of that one. And look at that. Terrain all the way to the horizon. And that's why it's called an infinite terrain. I do have my atmosphere aerial perspective set at 10. So if we change that, that'll be a lot clearer. Change that to 1, which is atmosphere standard. But one thing I want you to see here, let's move this out, is that this infinite terrain, it has the same advantage, is it shows you the same thing as the smaller terrain, that there's more detail closer into the camera. And one other thing, I'll show you that the infinite terrain is not actually infinite. It is 20 kilometers by 20 kilometers if you're set in the standard automatic metric. So I'll take another render of a clearer version of that. And you'll see it's rendering faster because our atmosphere is not quite so thick. The computer doesn't have to do so many calculations. And there you see it again, all the way to the horizon. And so that's just one of the really great new things that Vue has done for us, is given us this tool. And also, if you decide that you don't exactly want it to look like this, you can either just load another preset and the terrain will look a little bit different, or you can go ahead and edit the object and you still have the ability to work with this terrain and to change it, although it's going to take a little doing and you're going to have to work with it hard, but that's what art is there for. Thank you for watching this Geekatplay tutorial. And if you want to learn more about Vue, and especially more about Vue 7, please visit us on the web at www.geekatplay.com or vuetutorials.com.